You get here later.
We're good. What up, people?
Hello.
How's your day? Let's see your mindset posters.
What's that?
Let's see your mindset posters.
I'm gonna get talking on
Mhm. Are they all
Hopefully
different?
forward.
Cool.
That's nice.
And then because there's so much multiple choice questions, I give them multiple choice mindset.
Cool.
Because they're so disorganized, I think that's the fault of social studies and English. Oh, man, would you agree, science teacher?
100%.
Because that's not our job.
Because we hand out the calendars? Is that how you?
Exactly. You know, it used to be that way, go, that's not my job. These kids can't read and write, well, I'm a math teacher. Mindset about, I think I can.
Are you gonna have them, what's that plastic stuff called,
And then-
laminated?
The one thing I hate the worst are parents that go, oh, she's just not good at math, or he's just not good at math. So we talk about comfort zones all the time, so.
Nice,
So I
awesome.
leave that up to them, and then, what's the last one?
You just didn't know you were.
Double up. I don't know, I'm not good at math, I'm going to get better at math, I am good.
Mhm. So a couple of questions that they asked in the online. The first one was, what might inhibit you from playing with your stories? And how is it risky to tell some stories? When do the benefits outweigh the risks for you?
The truth might inhibit you, but never
Well,
stop me, it
sure.
might inhibit you guys.
There was like 3 questions there. What was the first one?
What might inhibit you from playing with your stories, like tweaking them a little bit? How is it risky to tell some stories, and when do the benefits outweigh the risks for you? I would say in that last one, it's all about the lesson that I'm trying to teach. You know, is it worth it to tell my seniors about an experiment or an experience that I've had if they are going to learn from it?
Well, especially if you did something, say you did something in high school that would fit, but it was probably not a good thing. I have several old stories. You know, your audience has a lot to do with whether you tell them. If it's a more mature group of kids, you might be willing to share. If it's an immature group of kids, you might not want to take the risk. I think that's where the benefits would outweigh any cost, especially now our risk is much higher with it being such a media frenzied world. Last year, I was telling I had the Algebra 1 repeat class, and one of them in the hall dropped the F-bomb. So I told them my brother-in-law's story of where the F word came from. It was all appropriate and everything. Somebody in that class, I didn't see him do it. Said their phone down here, they Snapchatted it. Because they get to the next class and they're like, hey, so what's he going to tell us that the F word stories? So no, it's not, we're going to tell them this class. And they said, well, I already saw it online. Like, what? So it's like,
Did you talk to the kid?
yeah, I ripped that kid. the
Oh,
next
I'm
day.
sure you
He said,
did.
well, it's not a big deal because Snapchat, it goes away after.
Yeah, right.
Like, it never goes away. So they're out. Kids will get me fired. I get Carl to find it somewhere.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was telling kids where the F word came from. It fit this. If you saw my class, you'd know why I told you the story.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
class.
yeah, you know that one?
My English teacher told me.
Okay, yeah. So,
I still know.
but there's a good story.
I don't even know.
See, you didn't tell the story. You just said what the.
I
acronym
remember the
stood for.
story.
Yeah, and the story probably varies from.
Well,
Tell her to
now you
tell
have
her.
to tell it because I want to hear if it matches.
Yeah, what's the
It's
story?
gonna Snapchat, but
Should I
Yeah.
stop the
Well,
product?
this is according to my brother-in-law, who's a British minister, so it must be true. Back during the Crusades times, all these men would go off to war and not come back. And so the Kings they knew the Crusades were gonna last for dozens and dozens of years. Well, they needed future soldiers. And so of course, they thought that women's prime time was like 12 to 20 or whatever. And so they got worried when a woman was reaching 19, 20 and their husband was still off at war. They didn't know whether they're coming back or not. They didn't get news. And so the King family decided, well, we're going to have to allow for there to be sex outside of marriage. We've got to have breeding. I've got to breed soldiers. And so they developed a seal, and there would be like a whole written decree of all this stuff. Boom, stamp. And the stamp said F-U-C-K and allowed permission to have fornication on the consent of the king. And that's where it came from. Supposedly.
Is that the story you
Did you tell that in history?
I have.
I will not.
I had the same story.
Yeah.
I was something, that was medieval and
Well, and
they
it's-
could be arrested for fornicating under the crown of the king. So same general, I didn't know all that.
Well, so, and then eventually somebody, turned into a bad word, but the kings needed more soldiers. And all the women were gonna run out of time, childbearing.
I think it should be the message, but you can't use the word until you know where it came from.
Well, then-
Now you can, go for it.
Well, then there's a story for the S word as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure
Suez
there's
hauled in
stories.
transit.
Um,
London, they had to get it all out of the town, so they hauled it out to the ocean. Just dumped it. Did London get too big? They did. Their cesspools stopped working, so it's just too much.
You're so full of information.
So full of that. So full of that. Suez hauled in transit.
I think it was interesting because last week with my seniors, I posted the question because we're reading still the Epic of Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh talks Enkidu, the other person on the hero's journey, on going and to slay the monster in the forest. And so the question that I posted it was, have you ever been convinced to do something you know was wrong? And how did that work out for you? And that's what I posted to kind of start the discussion.
Does Agile Mind count?
Say that again?
Teaching Agile Mind a curriculum? Does
No.
that count?
You
This
can
is something I
convince
know
them
it's wrong.
Right. So it was funny because I posted and I'm like, hey, you guys, let's talk about this. And silence. Like they didn't want to talk about anything that was wrong. And then one of my brave little students said, well, one time I took my parents' car without them knowing. And I said to him, did you have a license? He said, well, yeah. And I said, I didn't. And then I kept moving on. And the kids are like, what? Like, what? And then once I told that story about being 15 and not having a driver's license, but having had my permit, and I had to go pick up the Chinese food, of course, because they didn't deliver, and how I got caught because, driving that 5 miles to pick up the Chinese food, well, I was sure that I had used a bunch of gasoline, and so I filled up the needle to make sure that you couldn't tell that I had driven the car, like all the stupid mistakes. Once I told my students that story, all of a sudden their hands started going up, and we had a real conversation about that to lead into the literature. And I thought it was a really, it worked, but I think sometimes, like when you put a provocative question or statement out there, they're afraid to share until you're willing to share a little bit. And I certainly didn't share the worst stories I could have, but I did kind of hook them in when I'm like, oh, I didn't have a license. And I just kind of tried to move on, but then they all caught on to it. And so, I don't know, I thought it was really good.
Nice.
Well played.
So what's the worst story?
No, I'm not going to tell you. I really don't like the questions that they asked, so I'm going to ask the questions that I wrote. Do you think telling stories in class can increase productivity? How? How can they do that?
I think you just gave a great example. I mean, obviously the class discussion or investment in something, or the kids have things to talk about that they don't, so you open that. I mean, I think since starting this class, I've been more cognizant of stories than I ever was. I think for the purpose of that, or if I didn't do a good job at something, or even reading stories, like even trying to read when we read aloud occasionally, like trying to, like in science fiction where change to a robot voice, it's just ridiculously dumb. It's not funny. I'm kidding. It is actually. I'll be, sorry, my apologies. Yeah, norming.
Say it in robot.
Norming.
Say it in
Norming.
robot.
I can't do that. But for me, that I think, that's mildly putting it out there, but I think it can help with, I'm just saying that's a great, what you did is a great example of just what appears to be a small thing, but yeah, it really opens a lot.
Well, I think that's people who would come into that conversation would think that I was just wasting time. And I think sometimes when we tell stories, like I've had students say to me, can we not hear about you? Like, I don't want to hear stories about you. Or they'll say that on like a slip, like, I don't, yeah, oh yeah.
Well, I think that's what I was
I think
gonna.
most of them do, like hear stories about,
Yeah.
it humanizes us. Then you get the kids who are like very rigid.
Oh yeah,
Ready to
and they
work.
get very upset, like if they're hearing the story and they're like, but I had a kid a couple years ago, he's gone now, say to me, I don't like teachers who tell stories about their lives. And I was like, oh, you're screwed then, because I do. I don't know, it was weird.
Do you all do that? Do you tell them?
Well, I think there's a balance. I think there's the balance between letting kids see that and yes, I have a story that goes with this point. But I also think as long as you every once in a while also like allow them the opportunity to be heard. Because I do think if there are those teachers who are like, it becomes about them. It's like the so-and-so show, which again is when it's for a purpose or for a point. But at the other hand, like you're supposed to, you are there for them. So I think as long as you're cognizant of it, like, all right, this is the right time for it and this is not, then, I think it's great. But I also think it could be taken too far where it's just always the teacher up in front.
Well, and it depends on what you're willing to talk about. We had a math teacher several years ago. You guys remember Roger Bartholomew?
Oh, sure.
And I'd hear complaints from the kids all the time because he had a lot of the basketball players and golfers, and he would talk about his divorce and how nasty his ex-wife was, and all these really personal stories that have no relevance to anything. I mean, you can tell them a story because they like to hear them, and you can somehow segue it into the class, and if you're good at that, but you really got to stay away from things that are too personal. Sometimes, you step maybe near the boundary line, but I mean, that's like way over it. And they get sick of it. I remember Levi Knudsen
Wow.
asked me, says, Coach, can you talk to him? He is just telling us all this stuff that we don't really want to know about. He just railed about it. Or he'd talk about his days in the Navy, which they liked that, but there'd be like whole class periods that go by. And in the end, he'd go, oh, well, yeah, here's your assignment.
This
They
is a
go over
test to test the speakers. Again, this is only a test.
So yeah, I think there's a range
It's
to
gonna be on the.
use a math term. There's a range of how far you can go, what you should be doing. So you have to be careful.
I can't believe that he would, sounds almost like he was
Free
using
therapy.
his students for therapy, as opposed to,
Or yeah.
I've been the other way. I may be too guarded. Like I've had people ask me, like they try to get me to tell them stuff or like to do, especially I think some of the freshman classes or whatever. Like it's kind of weird. Like I don't think I should know.
well, yeah, seniors always, oh, well, did you do that in high school? I'll just let you guess. Like they always egg you on because they want to know more about you. Do you remember when she talked about digressions and giving flesh to the bones? Do you remember that discussion in the second video?
Yeah.
I said, do you use digressions in class?
Did you talk about that in the first one
And
too?
if so, I don't remember.
Okay,
I
sorry.
think it was just the second one.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
I don't really remember specifically what it was.
Well, I kind of interpreted digressions as partly thinking of something, spontaneous relating to, like, even if I'm doing we're doing a series of problems on the board, and I can relate it somehow to some vocation or some science, and some application, and then, somehow, because I'm always just, something will come to me like that, and I'll share that, and I feel like that's sometimes I go, but I digress, let's get back to the problem, and so I kind of interpreted a little bit of that, but I think she meant more like adding a little more
Your story.
spice to the story. Would that be?
Yeah, but can you do that in your teaching? Like, can you do that to your lessons? And I agree with you. I think a lot of us do it off the cuff. That, it just kind of happens authentically. Like I guess I would say that her definition of a digression is just something that occurs naturally in the class when you don't have a plan for your lesson, but then something jogs that idea. Would you agree, or am I totally reading that
Yeah, you
wrong?
said it better than, that's what I was trying to say, you said it much better.
So like you're going ahead and you're giving your lecture, whatever, on Russia. You teach that?
Russia.
Communist Russia, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, something happened at the grocery store yesterday that could, well, or whatever.
Yeah, you had to stand in line a long time for a
Loaf of bread.
loaf of bread, which,
Have you seen the cost of milk these days? My class is one big digression, so yeah.
And I would feel like mine is too.
And honestly, there's some days, like especially on Fridays, and you get to 6th hour, and sometimes I'll just throw a story in there just to keep their attention. Like even if it's not all that. Like, hey, you want to hear about the time that I super glued a chair to the floor of the cafeteria? People were tripping over it. Like,
How did that work out for you?
it was great. Actually, just sit back and watch, and there's one chair, and all the other things were cleaned up, and there's just one chair sitting there. Because people would just like kind of bulldoze through the chairs.
Were
So
you
we
in
were
high
like-
school or were you?
Yeah, I was in high school.
Would people try to pick it up?
No, but they like trip over it because they were like, trying to hit it with their head. It worked well, actually, surprisingly.
Let's
And then I
do
told them
that.
about this story that like when I had to run away from Rob Eskew, and then
With your teacher?
no, I was with a buddy and we were walking by his classroom and it had a window, and my buddy was like, dude, I can't stand that girl, so he like pounded on the window because she was leaning against it, and so we both started running, and Rob comes out and like hit his jets and just.
I
So-
gotcha.
Well, we went into the boys' bathroom and somebody ratted us out. They're like, they went in there. So I came so we both came out of the stall, and I walked by. It's like, hey, Jeremy, how's it going? And I felt guilty. I was like, sorry, that was me. I was like, really? So then years later, interview team, guess who's on it? Rob.
No way.
Did he ask you about it?
I was like, so, Mr. Eskew, you remember that? He's like, yep.
You're like, that
Oh,
won't
yeah,
have
you-
anything to do with my hiring, will it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny because the kids love hearing stories about former students as well. Tell them about this one time, something this student did. Like every year, just at the end of the school year, if seniors are talking about having a prank, whether they do or not, I tell them about the best pranks I've seen. Of course, they love hearing that kind of stuff. Did you ever have anybody who's stupid and obnoxious in class as me? Oh yeah, I've had much worse.
You're nothing, kid.
Yeah, you're nothing. And so they love hearing about other students.
Yeah.
I like just telling little stories to help them remember concepts. Like we took a homework check and they had the definition of something wrong. So I told them this story about me. When I worked at Target and I did security, and this guy just like kicked me in the butt. And so I told them that story and I related it back to this definition. And they're like, we're never going to forget that now. So it's just like little weird things that help them remember concepts too.
You were a security guard?
Yeah.
Somebody beat you up?
Yeah, kind of. I went to stop him and it didn't go so well. Kind of got dragged across the parking lot.
Wow.
That's okay.
By what?
By a man?
What was her name?
By a man, looked
No,
like
no, but like how, like.
I was like holding on to his legs.
Oh, okay, and he was running. You didn't let go.
Well, my boss was behind me and he took him down. He was an Olympic wrestler, so.
He let me
I know,
get-
but you slowed him down and
That's what I said, and then I was trying to like put handcuffs
You had the
on
first,
his
you
ankles.
had the first hit, and then the linebacker got there.
Yeah,
That's right.
so I'm like, it's great.
Sometimes telling stories that are like either digressions or like what you're talking about, but like add to it. Like I just always remember the teachers that I liked the most were the teachers that I felt like were people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work hard for the teachers who I liked. And so I feel like sometimes it's important to tell stories if for no other purpose than to like let them get to know a little bit about who you are. And then maybe they'll work harder for you.
And just letting them know that it sounds goofy, but that you're human. And like I tell them the dumbest thing, like the second day of class, I'll be like, here's the stupidest thing I've ever done as a teacher. You know, and it's okay. Like it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to you're gonna say things in class that might embarrass you, but it's not the end of the world.
What is the stupidest thing you've ever done as
Yeah,
a teacher?
I wanna
You
know.
can't just throw things out like that.
That's exactly what happens with
Sorry,
students.
coming out. We just
When
come
you-
here to
I
tell
really think we
our
need a
story.
fire pit.
When you bring that up,
Well, I was doing a lecture, it was my second year, I was doing a lecture on Renaissance art, and I had this PowerPoint, and I had like done a ton of research, super excited about it. And
let's have you go first. Let's have everybody do this.
I had,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so I had one slide, there was a link to Wikipedia. So I clicked on the link, and it went there, and the kids were into it, they're like, oh, that's so cool, can you know, like,
Zoom in.
focus, zoom in, thank you, that's the word. Tell them, well, zoom in on it, so I zoomed in, and I didn't think anything, I thought, okay, when I go back to my PowerPoint, it's just gonna like zoom back out. So I finished talking about it, I go to the next slide, click, and it's the Statue of David. And they start laughing, and I was like, you're juniors, okay, it's a naked man, all right, and they're like, they're just rolling, they're like, Mr. Hall, look, and I turn around and hello, David, like it was zoomed right in on his shoulder. So like, how do you recover from that? I was like, oh, it didn't zoom out.
Oh, boy. I don't know. I think as English teachers, we show lots of film and you want to try to fast forward through a lot. I mean, it happened today. I was like, oh my gosh, fast. And then I stop it and forward it and then I play it and I'm like, no. In fact, today I had my ninth graders put their heads down on their desks and close their eyes until I got it to the right place. Because I was like, yeah.
Like skipping over bad parts.
Yeah. But Ann Smith would say that probably her favorite moment of me teaching ninth grade English is when we show the movie, The Odyssey. And there's this one scene where Penelope is in the ocean. And she's, I can't even describe it without being,
Frolicking.
well, alone in the ocean, frolicking. And
She really
Frolicking with someone else or
No.
with herself?
No, she's alone in the ocean, frolicking. We'll just put it that way.
Why would you do that in the ocean?
Yeah, seaweed.
It's gonna be an engaging podcast or whatever.
And then I paused it and I said, "Why is she in the water?" And I tried to make the connection that that's how she gets.
Do you really want me to answer?
Did they know what she was doing?
No, I don't think so. And I said, it's so, Odysseus is on the water. It's how she can be close to him, da, da, da. But Ann Smith, every time I stopped, she's like, could you just stop talking about that? And I did, eventually. You should rent it on Netflix and just fast forward. So you'll understand what I mean by frolic. Because it's not just frolic.
Google Penelope frolicking in the ocean, see if it comes up.
Yeah, no doubt.
YouTube.
Yeah, but that was really embarrassing.
That's like what I teach every day, is
Yeah.
biology. So.
No doubt.
No, I had my very first year of, I was in, it's all like sexual jokes, but I was trying to get the kids to say fission and fusion. I was a student teacher and they hired me because I taught at a private school. So a lady was going to have a baby So the last 6 weeks of my student teaching, I left the classroom and got hired to be the sub. So I got paid for my last 6 weeks of student teaching. But it's my brand new, like I've got my own class. So I'm like, all right, they both start with F. Nothing, you know? And then finally I'm like, F-I and F-U. And I was like, oh. Like 2 days later, we're doing the experiment where like gas expands while heated. So I have an Erlenmeyer flask and a balloon that's hanging limply over to the side. And so as it starts to heat, it's just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I like try to hold it up. So
Wait, no,
this
no.
won't happen.
Yeah, that didn't help.
And this is 1999, right? So literally a kid in the back, because William and Garth are still popular. Finally, he just yells in the back and just goes, swing! And then we were just done. So, you know,
Oh, my goodness.
but then last year I had a bad one where, so it's not just sexual, but just moments of being stupid.
Oh.
And this kid came late, like all the time. And he had a bunch of B's in this class. And so I was just annoyed that he was always late. And so he didn't come one day. And I was like, does anyone have his phone number? And all his friends like, yeah. I'm like, do we know for a fact he has unlimited texting? And they're like, yeah. So we put his number on the board and every kid in my class sent him a text at the same time. It said, where are you? Where are you? So 36 texts all at the same time showed up to his room. And afterwards I was like, that was bad form on my part. Like, he totally took it in jest, which is what it was. We sent it as a joke. And I was like, if that kid's mom got upset that I did that, I would be in real big trouble. So thankfully he was not mad and he thought it was a joke, which it was meant to be. But I was like, that was dumb of me
Oh, I think it's
to
awesome.
do that.
I like to call them, like when they're like, oh, he's skiing. I'm like, really?
Right, and that's where it all like came from. And I thought, let's just send 36 texts. If he's sleeping, he'll wake up when he gets all of them at the same time. But then I was like, that was not very smart of me to do. Did not show a lot of discernment as the adult in the classroom.
I don't.
Man, that's the problem, that's what it comes back to. When you do try to have a little fun with them and somebody, just one, takes it the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's a big can of, big can of worms.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
I don't really know. Like, it's like the exact same, the only things I can think of are movies, like stuff with movies. Like the time I accidentally froze the screen on the naked people instead of before the naked people. That was a fun time. I actually got a lot of trouble for that one, so it's not as funny.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You know this story.
Mhm.
It was on the day of the shooting. I was supposed to go in 6th hour to have a meeting to
Read.
show this parent what I had shown in class, like by accident. Like the parent was like coming in
To see
to see with administration and heard fast. And the
You're like,
6th hour that same.
Did you guys ever meet?
Then I think she just dropped it after.
I'm
It's like, oh wait, there's
sure.
more important things in life than my
Yeah, but it
child
was
seeing
that
naked.
same day I was supposed to go in that afternoon. Mhm, yeah.
It's stressful. Like, weren't you stressed? Like, I was stressed. Like today I was very stressed about, oh my God, close your eyes and your ears.
Crash course got me though. I totally forgot about a crash course. There's one where he talks called Sex Schoolie Pooping. And it shows like 2 cartoon characters going after it. And I was like, oh, I missed it. I was like, okay, everything's good now. Well, then there's like this weird shady scene where there's Ken and Barbie. I was like, okay, guys, it's been nice being your teacher. Good luck.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it is really stressful.
They always get on their phone when I skip over it, and then they pull it up and they're like, oh, that's what I was talking.
I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. with
Well, you did your student teaching at Inglewood or Sinclair?
Sinclair, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you ever come-
Judy Garvey.
Right, did you ever come down to the gym when we had circus days?
I might have.
Okay, I had
Was that
this called
Sinclair?
circus days when I was doing 8th grade math, but I was doing PE different grades. I had these days called circus days. We have all these different things going on. We had all this really great equipment. We got a grant for all these mats and things. Well, trying to be creative, and so we took this old springboard. It's like from the 50s, it was a really good springboard. You could elevated. And we had all these crash pads and mats. So I decided one day, I got to school early, and set it up under a basket over on the side so they could dunk. And so we had all these pads and had the crash pad even propped on a wrestling mat. And so I knew that they'd build, I just kind of ran up it and then jumped. Okay, this is pretty safe. And I had pads everywhere. And so we had these other things. We had these other pads on scooters that they could run and jump on. And they'd go to the other end of the gym and crash into some more mats. And we had like 10 different things going on both gyms. Well, what was stupid was, it was all safe, but the very first class was an 8th grade class. And so I was telling them, look, how are you gonna run up that thing and jump and dunk? So, well, I'll do it. And I hadn't actually done it. I just kind of walked up it and so I ran full speed. I'm taller than all of them. I had it propped up too high and I just hit my mouth right in the rim. But I got a nice dunk out of it. And of course, first it was all silence because they thought I was hurt. And then I have a missing tooth anyway. So when I got off the thing, I knew I was okay. I grabbed her tooth out and I jumped and go, I'm okay. And a couple of girls were really mad because they thought I was hurt. But it was stupid because I hadn't actually tested my thing yet. But the line was long for that thing. They were running and doing all kinds of dunks. And they were laying on it was because the mats were up about 3 feet off the ground. So they only had 6 or 7 feet to fall from the rim. And they were smaller, so they weren't.
That's
At
hilarious.
least it was me crashing my face into the rim and not one of them.
That's funny.
So I don't know if you ever came down for any of that stuff. Because Judy came down there a lot. I don't know if you
It
ever.
was probably when I was teaching and she was coming down.
Yeah.
She said, you have to leave your lesson plans on the desk. I had to every night before, for the next day. It was insane. She was really good, but it was pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she was a stickler.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, me, I've got one where I invited the administrator into my room to be a guest speaker. And the administrator came in really early one day and wrote all this stuff on the board. And like a lot of things. And I got
Like full.
yeah, like the whole, all the boards, and this is back on the chalkboard from that board. And I'd invited this person in, and then I got there really early that day to be prepared. It was kind of maybe my first year or 2 here, I can't remember. And then I ended up erasing like all the boards because I thought it was left over from like the night before. So that was a pretty exciting time. I had to walk down there and try to explain that one. But it worked out. It was very, very accommodating. This was really good. And then another time we gave the wrong, we had a kind of feature, we gave the wrong, what do you call it, CSAT test. That was a really long walk from the room to the office.
Guidance.
Yeah, so, or I was reading and we'd already started the test. The person who was with me started reading the wrong directions, but it was too late because everybody's got all this stuff out. And we were going and I didn't realize it until, and then I'm the one who gets to go tell them. But it worked out. Last two. I played a telephone game one time in my classroom early in my career, which is like the worst mistake of all time. Yep. So I learned a great lesson that day. The sentence was, step into my dojo.
Oh.
Yeah. So I started that. Yeah, step into my academic dojo was the sentence. And I stopped it, I think, at the third person. Because I think the verb was stick. So I think they changed the wording already. So it was already
Wow.
Wow.
yeah. So.
I stapled my finger in class and I had to leave it because I was bleeding all over the place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was my fault. I was playing stapler roulette.
How do you play stapler
I
roulette?
just had a girl come. She's like, I'm out of staples, and it was like Friday, and I was joking. I was like, whatever. I was like, that's not us. She goes, I swear it is. I was like, okay, you are sure? I'm gonna staple my finger. I'm playing staples. She's like, it's out of staples. So I click, and there was one left. So I'm like, oh, I'll be right back. I literally had a trail of blood.
Oh,
I don't do that.
don't leave young girls.
Not smart.
I don't do that. No, I tell that story when I'm talking about how dumb boys are.
I'm afraid.
Well, I do that all
one
the
of
time
these-
too, especially the all-girls class. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. No.
The all-girls class love it if I start talking about idiot things that boys have done. They just love that. And I go, we all agree boys are idiots. And they're like, you're a boy. Yeah, but I'm a grown-up boy. But I'm still an idiot. That's my wife. They just think this is hilarious.
I have a desk just like that one in my classroom, and but it's got a leg on it that's like doing this. And I always forget, and I jump up there, and every time I like jump up there to sit on the desk, the kids are always like, and I'm like, oh crap! One day I'm gonna.
We bring a 2x4 in for you, it was sticking in there.
Yeah, we need to fix it. I try really hard not to sit on it, but sometimes I'm just like talking and I totally forget, and their faces are all like, oh god.
It's gonna collapse. So I thought her lesson.
Those were good digressions.
They were.
Yeah, we're telling.
See, but now we put
Storytelling.
flesh on the bones, as you said, right?
We
So we're gonna go back
Well, he
to
took some flesh off
flesh
the
on the
bones.
bones in the story.
Yeah. The only last question I have was when she was teaching the visualization technique. Like, I thought it was really interesting for her to say, you know, have your body face this way first, and then for the middle this way, and then for the end this way. And I was thinking about like our assembly, like
Yeah.
I very much have very specific movements that I do when we do the freshman assembly. But I thought what a great lesson to teach my public speaking class about to instead of remembering. And I love this. A lot of people remember what the written words. They don't remember the speech. They just remember what they wrote down on the paper, and they don't really think about delivery. And so I thought it would be a really awesome technique to teach my kids that idea that, and so I went to my public speaking classes today, and I'm like, you know what? We're not going to write our speeches anymore. We're going to rehearse them. We're not going to write them on paper. Because I think it might make it a little more authentic instead of the robot talk I have happening in that class already. You know, some of them are awesome. Some of them are great and really good at engaging kids, but a lot of them are very mechanical, afraid, and I
Is
want
it
it to
freeing
be
from the text, like they hang up on a word, they get stuck versus
exactly
being in a place, like or I remember the dog image or whatever she had in that.
the night.
Like, yeah, that, or the, whatever that thing is.
Oh, yeah, the
With
picture of the dog,
and, like,
yeah.
Zoomed in and.
Yeah.
she's in the dog kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, or one line, it said, think about where you are and what has happened in the story. And I think that's kind of interesting versus like the word and stuff.
I thought about that too. Like I was thinking, you know how she when she said think of a story, the first story that I thought about was the story that my father used to tell me as a child. But like when I was visualizing it sitting on the floor next to David's bed telling him the story and what's that like. But then I started to visualize myself in the story, like the blueberry patch and what does the tree house look like in the distance behind the blueberry patch, you know, and so I started thinking about it that way. And then I started thinking of different perspectives of different characters. I don't know, I thought it was a really interesting lesson to kind of look at things from different perspective. Another thing that we're doing in Link Crew right now is we're having our leaders do videos, and they have to think about it. This might have come from the class last year, but about how do freshmen view you as a Link leader? How do they view their experience at Arapahoe? So the Link leader has to tell it, but from a freshman's point of view, and what does that look like? I don't know, I think it'll be really interesting if they do it well.
Well, do some of them some of the ones that are so academic oriented, they're much more focused on the writing of their speech than the storytelling.
Oh, sure.
And
I
so
had a girl.
that probably inhibits them, and they probably think there's
Yeah.
great, but it's like there's more to it
Yeah,
than
I had
just what you're saying.
I had a girl come up to me and say, I got a B. And I'm like, yes. She's like, can I do anything extra to get an A? And I'm like, no. We have a whole semester, don't you? Where she's like, if I get a B in only public speaking, but I have straight A's. And I'm like, wow. Okay, don't worry. You just have to learn.
It's September, it's October, it's August, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all get that. Those kids
Oh, yeah, it's already going on.
so motivated by, or not so motivated, but just so driven by what their grade is at the
That's their
moment.
parents are.
I have to have a 4.0 at quarter
6
time.
weeks.
No, we don't calculate GPAs
Yeah.
at the quarter.
Yeah.
So
It's a grade in progress.
You want an A, you get the A the first time.
Yeah.
You let kids with Fs retest, so yeah, we're trying to get them to pass the class. So we take it.
We could parallel, and then we could juxtapose that with the stories, right? Focusing on the words. the grade or the words versus visualizing. what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
You maybe argue that to some degree. It's maybe a step.
Well, that's why the presidents have writers, and then it's their job to be great deliverer of the speeches. And
It'd be interesting to have the kids more like write each other's speeches.
ooh,
Like I write a speech for you, you write a speech for me.
And then you have to really figure out how to perform
Yeah.
it based on tone.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
especially like next year, it's election year. Right up. Your partner is the Republican candidate for president. Your partner's.
Oh, I don't
Trump.
even want to get into
Audra,
that.
have you tried it?
That's true. Then you're
I
gonna-
don't even,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to deliver that at all.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, you could do it.
It would be cool to tell a story from another person's point of view. I don't know.
Well, she talked about that, right? Like she talked about like telling, like choosing different point of views for your story.
Yeah.
Like
And
that's,
she did the minors one, and then she interviewed all those minors.
Yeah.
and told-
Yeah.
And even on her story about Mama's Wing, she even slightly gave the dog's point of view. You know, the dog was, happy that I was still alive, and the dog was.
Yeah.
She kept interjecting the dog, and that was to keep the story. Kind of kept the story positive.
Panting was nice, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that dog would need some medicine, but and then she didn't bring in the dark part of the story till the end when she had you. And then you're like, oh crap.
that day that she tells all those stories, like all of her stories that she shows, she's wearing the same clothing.
I think it was all
They
in one
probably shoot all
session.
yeah.
That is the longest amount of time for people to have to sit there and listen to stories.
She might have brought in
They're
different
pretty
photos.
engaged.
Are those the
They're
same?
different
Is it the
groups,
same
I
audience?
think.
They're probably her students.
That is the longest day of telling stories ever for her then. Because I haven't really been paying attention.
She's a
to the
professional, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
Mighty
man,
Gang,
every time I'm
yeah.
like, the same outfit.
Well, when it gets to 14, see if there's any sweat stains on her. Maybe that's why she's wearing the cape
Yeah.
or shawl.
Are we done? I'm
She's a
done.
mountain girl. She's from
She
East
was-
Tennessee.
she- when she
That's the
was-
Smoky
Sorry, I
Mountains.
killed the conversation. I'm sorry.
No,